day, right? It's like, this is all pretense, and down below, this is all comfort. So whatever it takes. I think in the UK, pants are your underwear, so I think we all have pants. Thank you, Sarah. Aditi from India, Bangalore, thank you, welcome to you. Helena from Spain, welcome. And Alice from Berkeley, hey neighbor, I'm in El Sobrante. Woohoo!
Oh, nice.
It's right next door. He says, I use my best shirts, but my polka PJ pants are always part of my comfort uniform. You should start your own clothing line for Zoom meetings, like the Lipa Zoom meeting, like fashion line, right? It's like up here and then polka dot pajamas. Hey, this could be big. I want a percentage of that. Let's see. Oh, UC Berkeley. All right. Look at this. Ontario, Canada. Hey, Lisa, welcome to you. Somebody told me that if you have a coffee mug at your end of the day Zoom meeting, like your 5th or 6th Zoom meeting, you can put wine in that, but hang a tea bag string off the edge. And then occasionally just pick that up and go, pretend like you're cooling your beverage, but you're just, hey, happy Zoom meeting, everybody. I'm not condoning alcohol as a way to deal with life's troubles. I'm just saying, I heard. You like that idea, Liz? Nicole, don't tell my secrets. Shh. You are a fun group. This is going to be great. We getting ready to start here, Carly?
Yes, we are. We'll give everyone one more minute to join us, and then we'll get started.
All right, cool.
Hi, good morning. My name is Vanessa Laguna, but on the screen you could see Achelene Espinosa.
Hey, welcome to you. Glad to have you here.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey. Chicago's in the house. Hey, Lisa. Woohoo. Chicago.
James, as we get started, and for everybody, I'm just going to ask everyone to mute, and I'll mute everyone just so we can avoid background noises as we get started. But with that being said, please feel free to add personality and animation in the chat. We still love to hear from you. But just as we get started, I'll mute everybody.
I was teaching a class one day, and a woman was sharing something, and while she was talking, in the background, I heard
Is that muted?
Yeah, she said it's my dog. It likes to sleep under my desk every afternoon. So it was her dog snoring. So anyway, I'll mute myself now.
All good. All right. It is 8:30. Welcome, everybody. My name is Carly. I am the Community Events and Partnerships Lead here at Learnit. And with me, I have the lovely James Jeffley, who's been providing entertainment and jokes for the last 5 minutes, if you've been on with us as well. We're really thrilled to have you all with us here for Develop a Growth Mindset. For those of you who are new to our sessions on Fridays and new to Learnit, welcome. We're thrilled to have you. A little bit of context around Learnit as an organization. We are a learning and development firm out of San Francisco, California, and we help train individuals and organizations at scale on the skills needed to thrive really in the economy and today's world, and also in the economy of tomorrow, and as we move into the next normal with transitioning in the pandemic. So we really appreciate you being here and finding us. It's great to see this audience growing. So thank you for growing with us. For those of you that are Learnit clients, Learnit students that have taken some more of our public workshops and have been coming back for more, also welcome and thank you for joining us this Friday. And just a little bit of context for everybody on how these sessions work specifically. We host these Friday 45 to 60-minute sessions every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. We follow a monthly theme. So this month's theme is employee well-being. And these sessions are led by subject matter experts and guest speakers. And so without further, actually before that, a couple of housekeeping items. Please do feel free to ask your questions in the chat. I will be capturing those throughout the session, and James and I will leave time for questions throughout the session as well as afterwards. And also this session will be recorded and it will be available in our community platform called Offsite. So I'll speak more about that after the session, and we have some fun kind of giveaways and gifts for all of you. So I do encourage you to stick around until the end, but it will be recorded and it will be available there. So now, without further ado, I'd love to introduce all of you to the wonderful James Jeffley. So a lot of you are already familiar with James if you've been coming to these sessions, but a little bit of context on James. He is an award-winning speaker and trainer and professional coach, amidst also being an author, musician, and minister. And he has 20 plus years of experience really helping people across the world develop skills, real life skills that we all need at home, at work, and at play. And he's also a member of Toastmasters International and a 2-time finalist in the World Championship of Public Speaking. And he works directly with our clients on some of our largest professional development programs with Fortune 500 companies and startups. So he works with really a whole range of people. And so with that, I'm thrilled to have James lead us today. James, take it away.
Hold on. There we go. Can you see and hear me and see my screen? We good? All right, cool. Hey, welcome everybody. This has been an amazing 12 months, hasn't it? Right? We've been through some unprecedented stuff. And what I call this whole COVID pandemic experience is a prolonged global trauma event. Anybody agree with me? Right? And it's hard to find anybody on the planet who has not been impacted in some way, either from mild inconvenience on one end of the spectrum, all the way to fatality or catastrophe on the other end of the spectrum, and everything in between, right? But here's what's true. No matter what has happened to you in your life because of COVID, the pandemic, working from home, family issues, etc., you're on this call right now. And that means you're still standing. Life has not crushed you. COVID has not crushed you. It's been hard. It's been challenging, but you figured out how to get out of bed this morning and log on and be here. So that means you're made of stronger stuff. There's something about resilience in you, and there's something about growth mindset in you. Would anybody agree with me on that? Just raise your hand or hit a smiley face or a heart. Is it right? I'm not saying life still isn't hard for most of us, but the point is you keep showing up, and that's part of the deal. So thank you for showing up this morning. I'm James Jeffley, as Carly said, and who wants to have, do, or be something better in life? Anybody? Chantel's going, yeah, me, yeah, I think we all do, whether it's a little thing, a medium thing, or a big thing, right? Thanks for dropping it in the chat box. So in the next few minutes, I want to share 3 things with you that might just help you have, do, or be something a little better. I want to share one simple truth. I want to share the number one reason why most people get stuck and don't move forward in life, and one simple tool that you can apply right away to help get yourselves unstuck or start making a little more progress. Does that sound cool? Okay, here we go. One simple truth. There is no static. There is no static. What do I mean by that? Anybody? You can drop it in the chat box. What do I mean by there's no static? Energy. Yes, Harrison, change is always constant. We're always changing. Life is dynamic. This static exists. Some of you know that. You rubbed your feet on the carpet, you touched a doorknob, your hair freaked out. That's static. That's real. Everything else changes. The static I'm talking about is an unchanging state. As Georgiana says, things are impermanent, constant transformation. Thank you, Stravu, right? Everything must and does and will eventually change. Sometimes the changes are immediate. Sometimes they are imperceptible because they happen on a geologic scale, but everything can, does, and will change in life. We all in agreement on this? Yes? How many of you look at your waistline and notice it has changed over the last 12 months? I'm like, oh, pandemic pounds, right? How many of you notice your hair has changed over the last 12 months? It's like, I need to get to a barber. I'm sitting at home, like the third month in, I'm looking like an alpaca. My hair is just all over the place. I might just shear me, right? So there are only two ways that things change, people. There are only two ways that things change. How do you think they change? Drop it in the chat box. I love that you're participating. Time, right? Things change over time. Willingness, that's a great one, Noel. Doing, right, Annabella? Things either get better or they get worse. There is no middle ground of okay. Things either get better or things get worse. Anybody agree with me on that? Right? So how do things get better and worse? Well, things get worse because a lot of us don't think things can actually get any better. We don't think we can get better. We don't think the situation can get better, the relationship, the job, the whatever. We can't see a way to this being better. And if we don't think something can be better, then we don't dream about actually making that thing better. We don't imagine a different possibility. We don't imagine a scenario in which our lives actually look markedly different. So we don't even enter into that fantasy world of what if, well, maybe. No, because we've already talked ourselves out of that. No, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. And as a result of that, we don't think it can be better. We don't dream about it being better. We don't act to make it better. Why spend the energy if you don't even think it's possible? Anybody feel me? Right? And if we don't think it can get better, we don't dream and we don't act, even if we go to that offsite community webinar thing and we hear that guy talking about growth mindset, even if we try to do something, the moment it gets hard, we quit. We got a little spark of motivation. We tried something. We're like, see, it's hard. I'm going to walk away. Any of you ever have that experience? You had a little bit of courage and you tried something. And the moment it got tough, you're like, this is it. I'm done. Anybody? Right? I'm not judging here. Don't take anything I say as criticism. I have experienced this myself. This is why I'm eminently qualified to talk about this, because I have walked away from things that I have talked myself out of too. These are all the traits, characteristics of what's called a fixed mindset. Anybody ever have grass like the kind that grows on your lawn? Anybody ever have that kind of grass, right? What happens if you don't cut your grass? Gets better, it gets taller, right? Weeds show up, critters show up, it never stops. Just keep, the next thing you know, you get a note from your neighbors or the city, hey, grass is too tall, go cut it, right? So you can't just like not do anything. It's not going to cut itself, right? You have to take some action. So how do we make things better? How do things get better? Things get better because we actually think things can get better. Hey, maybe it's possible this could improve. This job, this project, this relationship, this lawn, my waist, whatever you're thinking of, maybe that can get better. And if you think it can get better, you start to dream, well, okay, well, what would that look like, right? I'd be able to fit into those clothes again. The lawn would be immaculate. We'd have a wonderful time together. The job would be easier. I'd have a better relationship with my coworkers, right? How many of you have dreamed about some aspect of your life getting a little better, just a little better? Not perfection, right, Leslie? Right, Lipa? Right. So you okay? Well, what if? Okay, and then if you start dreaming it can be better, you know what? We might actually get enough motivation to take action on it. Let me make that phone call. Let me send that email. Let me sign up for that course. Okay, I'm just going to go walking. I'm not going to join a gym, but maybe I'll just walk today, right? Maybe I'll put down the chips. I'll say no to the donuts. Okay, maybe that's too radical. Okay, one chip. I'll say no to one chip. But we start taking some action on it. And when, not if, but when it gets tough, we find the courage and the energy to push through, to keep going. How many of you had this experience? You started a new thing, you thought it could get better, got a little difficult, but you kept pushing through, right, Lipa? Right? Is it Lipa or Lipa? Is it the first one? Lee or Li? Lipa. Okay, thank you, Lipa. Right? So you push through and you keep going. And then maybe the reward at the end of that was like, wow, yeah, it was hard and I succeeded. How many of you have succeeded at a difficult task before? Right, Mary? How did you feel at the end of that? Were you like, woohoo, yay, go me? There's reaction buttons too. If you wiggle your mouse, you can click on reactions. You can do the hand clap or the thumbs up or the heart, or you can do the little party thing. Hey, Zoom, 12 months into a global pandemic and we only have 6 emojis. Come on, get with it. We need more emojis. These, all the things we do to make things better, these are the result of what's called a growth mindset. You with me here, folks? Do you see either of those or both of those playing out in different parts of your life? I don't think it's all or nothing. I think some parts of my life, I have a growth mindset. Other parts of my life, I might have a fixed mindset about. So what I want you to do is think about where these things show up in your life. I'm growth over here with these things. I'm fixed over here with those things. I'm making the effort over here with this stuff, not so much over here with that stuff, right? You like that focus? Good, Nancy. Here's the number one reason most people get stuck. There are actually a number of reasons why, but here's one if you had to boil it down to one thing. Number one reason people get stuck. It's also the number one reason why people move forward in life. It's the same reason. Know what it is? Mindset. It's your mindset. Yeah, fear is a reason why people get stuck, but fear is part of a mindset. If I don't think things can get better, I will talk myself out of even dreaming that it could get better, let alone trying. And then I'll create some kind of a sabotaging statement. I'll talk myself into some fear. Oh, well, you know, that's going to be really hard. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be time consuming. What if I fail? I'm going to lose my job, prestige, my family, blah, 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 blah. Any of you ever talk yourself into the, like, how horrible it could possibly be scenario? The worst possible scenario, right, Ben? Leaves every time. Overthink. It is a snowball. It starts off with a little thing, and the next thing you know, it's Godzilla. It's like, how did it get to be this big, giant, fire-breathing dinosaur? Because we just kept adding to it. We kept awfulizing it. Fixed mindset is the product of a belief system. It's a belief system. So is a growth mindset. They're both the product of beliefs. It's important to analyze our beliefs. What do we think? Not the beliefs are necessarily right or wrong, good or bad. The point is, what's the result of that belief? Does it empower you? Does it disempower you? Does it move you forward or does it hold you back? Some of us have beliefs that are not serving us right now. How many of you know this to be true for yourself? You got a belief about yourself that's like, oh, well, you know, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. People don't like me. I can't. I'm not. I'm too this. I'm not enough that. Any of you have any of that going on in your head? Right? Hey, I'm with you. I got some of that too. That's why I'm talking about this. Fixed mindset is the product of belief. The belief of a fixed mindset is that my intelligence and my talents, my abilities are fixed. I can't get any smarter and I can't do any new things. Those are the core beliefs of a fixed mindset. Let me ask you, sometimes people around you drive mindset. Ravi, you just spoke a lot of truth there. If I had a mic, I'd drop it for you. Somebody once said, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out most with. How many of you want to be millionaires or really wealthy? Anybody? Okay. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. How many of them are millionaires? I'm going to stop you right now. Probably none of them. Your broke friends are lovely, but they can't teach you how to be a millionaire because that's not their mindset. That's not their experience. You need to go find some millionaire friends who you can start engaging in the conversation about how to get wealthy. How many of you want to be healthier? Like have really good, fit tone. Okay, great. Look at those same 5 friends. How many of those people are healthy in the way that you want to be healthy? I'm sure they're lovely people, but if everybody's sitting around on the couch eating, cookies and cake and whatever, nobody's getting healthier. Your friends are lovely, but those aren't the right friends to help you get where you want to be. Sometimes you need new friends. Somebody once said, if you can't change your friends, change your friends. Now, I'm not saying get on the phone and call them up and go, yeah, I was at a class today and the guy just made me realize that you're no good for me, so I got to cut you loose. No, don't do that. I'm just saying go find some new people and learn from them. We think in a fixed mindset belief that this is how smart I am, this is how talented I am, and I can't get any better. Well, reality check. How many of you actually learned a new thing during these last 12 months or so of COVID? Anybody? You learned, all right? So just drop it into the chat box. What was the new thing you learned? Some people learned a new hobby, a new habit, gardening. Some people took up cooking, languages, origami, making bread, photography, just joined college, Zoom, Qigong, meditation, statistics, MBA program, filming, right? Look at cycling, art. Look at all of you people. Look how awesome you are. Right? This is all growth mindset stuff going on with you all. Because you said, well, okay, I'm in the house. What am I going to do now? You could have just sat there binge watching Netflix. By the way, I finished Netflix. All of Netflix. I watched it. Maybe not that bad. But so here's the funny thing about fixed mindset. It's just as prevalent in people who think they're smart as it is in people who think they're not. What? How can smart people have a fixed mindset? I'll tell you in a minute. What are the effects of a fixed mindset? We tend to judge more ourselves and others. Oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. And if you're around somebody who wants to try and do something better, sometimes you talk them out of it too. Or sometimes they talk you out of it. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you can't do that. You're too old for that. You're too young for that. You're too whatever for that. How many of you tried to do something, you had a friend talk you out of it? Right? And it wasn't because of your ability. It was because of them, their fear. Right, Francis? If something's difficult, if we have a fixed mindset, we tend to stop. And then over time, we have less of a desire to want to try or to try harder at something. So jot this in the chat box. What's something you've either quit or you haven't even tried because you talked yourself out of it? You said something like, oh, that's too hard, or I'm just bad at that, or no, I just can't do that. Or maybe you said, oh, that's not where my talent lies. Or you said, well, that's other people. Other people are gifted like that. I'm not gifted like that. Or you said, you're just not smart enough. Painting the house, college, taekwondo, gym, skiing, a new job, thought I wasn't good enough or didn't have the skills when you actually were good enough. Didn't apply for a promotion, calculus, engineering, tennis, being a specialist, right? Doesn't matter what it was, math, science, art, music, dance, a sport, computer software, all the things you said, right? Pay attention to the constant conversation you had in your head about that thing. What were you telling yourself? How has that fixed mindset impacted you? Has it kept you from something that you wanted to have, do, or be? What's that fixed mindset thinking keeping you from right now? A new job or career, relationship, joy, peace, health? Imagine if you had the things that you don't think you can have. Imagine for a moment that you actually had that thing that you want. What does that feel like? What if you talked yourself into that? What if you just were that? How would that feel? Good, Eileen says. Imagine if you had that. Let's talk about growth mindset. A growth mindset is the opposite of all the things we've talked about with a fixed mindset. It's the belief that your innate talents, your abilities and characteristics, and especially your intelligence can all be developed. How many of you think that may be remotely true, that it is possible to learn new things, to get smarter, to learn new skills, right? Now, if you don't raise your hand on this, I would point you back to what you just said a couple of minutes ago about the thing you learned during COVID. So, oh, you're right. I see myself. Okay, yes, I did learn some new stuff. So most of you have had a lived experience of a growth mindset because you've done some new things, but maybe it's not a belief yet. Growth mindset. Do you know what the number one predictor of success in life is? Do you know what the number one predictor of success is in life? It's a growth mindset. It's not money. It's not what side of the tracks you were born on. It's not your religion or your politics or whatever race you align with. It's a growth mindset. Carol Dweck is the sort of the founder of this philosophy. She's the originator of growth mindset. She's a professor of psychology at Stanford University in the United States. She developed the implicit theory of intelligence, which refers to our underlying beliefs regarding whether or not our intelligence or abilities can change. She coined the terms growth mindset and fixed mindset, and she has a book called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. If you haven't read it, read the book. It's fascinating. And for her, growth mindset is not just a bunch of motivational rah-rah sayings. It's not like saying, oh, you can do it. Yes, you can. No. It's hardcore underlying foundational beliefs. Yeah, Georgiana says book is excellent. Great book. Thank you, Liz. It's your beliefs, your deeply held beliefs that you can improve. Let me show you how this is played out in real world. Anybody a baseball fan? Anybody baseball? Okay, so there's a team in the United States in Missouri called the St. Louis Cardinals, professional baseball. Whether you're a Cardinals fan or not, that's not the point. I'm a Dodgers fan. Okay, stop. we like cricket. Okay, beautiful. This is the example. St. Louis baseball team over the last 20 years or so has consistently been a top performer. They've been number 1 or 2 in their division. They've usually made it to the playoffs. They won the World Series, the top thing at least once, or been in it several times. In 2007, they called Carol Dweck and they said, hey, we've heard about your work with growth mindset. We've got these young players in our farm system, and we're trying to figure out which of these players we should invest in and promote up to the major leagues. On paper, they all look pretty similar, right? Their statistics look pretty similar, but we can't tell, like, should we invest in this player or that player or that player? Can you help us with your growth mindset work to devise a test to figure out which of these players to invest in? She goes, yeah. So she came up with a question, one question. Here's the question. She said, ask this of all your young players. What makes you such a great baseball player? That was it. Simple question. What makes you such a great baseball player? Some players said, well, I've always had this innate talent. I guess I was just born with it. Other players said, well, I come in early, I stay late, and I work crazy hard at it. I was born with it. I work hard at it. Which players do you think the Cardinals invested in? The ones who work harder, because they were not limited. They didn't have a fixed mindset about their abilities. See, and this is how even smart people can develop a fixed mindset. When you're little, did your parents ever tell you, hey, good job on that test, you're so smart? Did your parents ever tell you that? Look how smart you are. Okay, yeah. Little did they know that they were actually planting the seeds of a fixed mindset in you. What? I knew my parents messed me up. No, here's how this happens. Here's how this happens. If you get a test and you pass the test, you get an A on the test, and you come home and you go, look, mommy, daddy got an A. And they tell you, congratulations, baby, you got an A. You're so smart. What that does psychologically to you is it makes you think you're smart enough for that test. You're smart enough for that test. You go back to school the next week and your teacher goes, hey, kids, guess what? We're going to have another test this week. But this test is going to be twice as hard as last week's test. Now, what do you think goes on in that kid that was praised for being smart? Do you think they think they're up to the test? Or do you think they think, ah, there's no way I'm going to get twice as smart in a week. I'm probably going to fail. How many of you think the kids are going to rise to the occasion? How many of you think the kids are going to psych themselves out of it? Yeah, in most cases, the kids psych themselves out of it because they think they were as smart as the last test. But if the new test is twice as hard, they're not going to grow their intelligence 100% in a week. So they're going to go, sorry, I can't come to school today. I'm feeling sick. The Rona, the dog ate my homework. They'll come up with some excuse to talk themselves out of it. That's how you install a fixed mindset in kids. You praise them for how smart or how fast or how good, how talented they are. What we should be praising them for instead is what? For hard work, for effort. Hey, wow, you got an A on that test. You must have studied really hard for that. Right? Hey, you ran that race. You must have practiced really hard for that. You praise for effort. Otherwise, you tend to limit yourself. You tend to limit other people, cause and effect. So how do we build a growth mindset? Well, it's the result of a belief. And so when you encounter any difficulty in your life, rather than shy away from that, what you have to do is tell yourself this difficulty is literally a chance for me to get smarter. It's literally a chance for me to get better. So let's talk a little bit about the science of getting smarter. They used to think, scientists, that our brains were kind of hardwired after a certain point and we couldn't get any smarter. Like after a certain age, you've learned all you can learn and you're not really going to grow your IQ, right? That's it. Well, that's not true. What most of the current research indicates is actually you can physically grow your brain and your brain can actually process information faster and you can actually rewire your brain. We got a number of folks from the UK on here today, right? Condolences about Prince Philip, by the way. If you've ever taken a cab in the United Kingdom pre-GPS, they just didn't let everybody get a taxi cab license in the UK. You had to learn the streets and know the routes, and you just had to be an expert at that before they would give you a taxi cab license pre-GPS. I was over in the UK before GPS, and yeah, I've had this experience. They did some studies on taxi cab drivers who had 10 years of experience, still continues to date. Right. Thank you, Jennings. In London, only the knowledge. Gotcha, Sarah. They did MRIs, functional MRIs on taxi cab drivers in London who had been driving 10 plus years. And they did functional MRIs on taxi cab drivers that were brand new, right? They just got their license. The ones who had been driving for 10 plus years, the physical part of the brain that does spatial awareness and remembers directions and all of that was literally bigger than it was in the people who just started. So what that indicated to the researchers is that, can you give some reference to reviving your brain even when old or loved you? Okay, yeah, so some of this might actually apply, Sheila, so hang on. What that indicates is the people who have been doing this longer, right, were literally growing the part of the brain that was necessary to remember all of the different routes. Maybe the younger folks, their brains would get bigger too, the more experience they had at it. Your brain can speed up. I'm going to show you a quick video here in a moment that shows how and when and why your brain starts to process faster. The third thing about rewiring your brain, there's a book by Dr. Norman Doidge, Doidge, called The Brain That Changes Itself. And in it, he talks about, I think he's a neurologist. In it, he talks about stroke victims and how, if somebody has a stroke, some part of the brain is usually affected, and what part of the brain, whatever part of the body that brain managed, is also usually affected. So if the speech part of the brain is affected, you're slurring your voice, or may have some facial affectation or what have you. He started to discover that there were some people doing some groundbreaking new therapies with stroke victims, some completely different therapies that allowed the damaged parts of the brain from the stroke, the part right next to the damaged part started to take over some of the processing from the damaged part. The brain was literally rewiring itself. So in many cases, a lot of the stroke victims who were going through, I don't know about dementia, David. That's a good question. I think that might be a whole different thing, but maybe it's possible. Notice I'm not wearing a white lab coat. It does not say Dr. James. So, but go do the research. But what they noticed in a lot of the stroke victims that were going through these new therapies, they were able to regain some, most, or in some cases, all of the motor function of the part of the body that was affected by the damaged part of the brain. Read the book. It's an interesting book. So there was a video, and actually I hid that. So I'm going to show you this video right now. And let me make sure that I have this turned on. Yeah, I do have this turned on. I'm going to show you this video. It's short. Check this out.
So this is your brain. Say hi. Okay, it's a representation of your brain. Brains don't have hands. They have lobes and other structures, which we'll get to. But I want to talk to you about your brain. You see, your brain is capable of incredible things. But I think a lot of times we can feel pretty down on our brains, on old Thinky Pinky here. We beat up on them, say bad things about our brain's abilities. Say we have trouble understanding a subject in school, or solving problems, or learning a new skill. It's easy to say, oh, I'm not smart. I'll always be this way. Hey, stop doing that. What we think of as intelligence, what we think of as smartness, is not fixed, is not stuck in one place, is not permanent. Your brain can improve. Your brain can grow. Come with me on a journey of discovery. Here we go. Into the brain. Excuse me, coming in hot. This is a thing called a neuron. Oh, hey, welcome to the inside of your brain. A neuron is a brain cell. There's over 100 billion of these things making up your brain. Put it this way, there are over 13 times more neurons in your skull than there are human beings on Earth. A lot of them. They're the cells that help you think. Mind you, a single neuron, and let's call her Nellie. Hi, Nellie the neuron. Nellie, on her own, can't do all the thinking your brain needs to even pick up a glass of water. Fortunately, she's got friends. There's Dendrite Dave, there's Alonzo the axon, there's Magna Myelin, and look, little Sally Synapse, so teensy tiny. Your brain behaves like a muscle. If you're serious about lifting weights, right, and you keep it up on a regular basis for a long period of time, weeks, months, years, you're going to develop muscles. But you don't grow muscles by doing nothing. It takes effort. It takes struggle, repeated failures, in fact. You mess up, and then you learn, and then eventually you manage to jump the log or whatever problem you're trying to solve. Wait, we've lost focus here. Back to neurons. When you struggle, your neurons are struggling too, and that's important because when neurons struggle, they lean on each other. They make connections. They start to form this densely connected network inside your brain, allowing little jolts of electricity to pass down them more and more efficiently. That's thinking faster. That's your brain getting smarter. That's your brain muscle getting swole, kid. So the next time you say to yourself, I can't do this, I'm just too dense, remember, that brain density is your friend. In fact, the denser you are, the more connections between Nellie and her neuron pals that you've got inside your brain, the stronger and more powerful your thinking parts become. The more you work through your frustrations with the right learning strategies, the more your neurons get more used to working together, the closer you are to being that much smarter. Now get out there and do your best. Don't give up, grow those brains, and remember, you can learn anything. So,
Hey, James, I don't think we can hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Great, thank you. So I was miming that. So what'd you think of that video? Based on that video, how many of you think, yeah, it is possible for me to get smarter? Anybody think that? How many of you are still on the fence? Like, maybe I'm not sure. Anybody? How many of you think, no way possible. I'm as smart as I'm going to get. I can't get smarter. Anybody? Okay. Well, those were the 3 questions that they asked these kids in school. They showed this same video to a group of 7th graders, thousands of them. And over the following 2 years, they tracked their test scores. And the kids who thought, yes, I absolutely believe this video, I can get smarter, their math scores went up. For the kids who thought, I'm not sure, their math scores stayed about the same. For the kids who thought, no, there's no way I can get smarter, their test scores actually went down. Your words have power. What you tell yourself has power. Your beliefs have power. I'll try and find the link to it to get you. Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy, Winston, right? So how do I practice creating a growth mindset? Linguistic relativity. You change your words, you change your mindset. We are all in a constant conversation with ourselves. Pay attention to what you're constantly telling yourself. And if you want to have a growth mindset, you got to pay attention to the language that you use with yourself and with others about you. Here's a simple bonus truth. We talk ourselves into and out of everything. I talk myself into things. I talk myself out of things. How many of you know that's true for you? Right? You talked yourself into this call. You'll talk yourself into something else later on today. You'll talk yourself out of something later on today. Pay attention. And I'm not judging what you talk yourself into or out of. I'm just saying pay attention to the conversation that you're having with yourself while you're talking yourself into something. What's the language you're using? And what's the language you're using when you're talking yourself out of something, when you're talking yourself out of something? So think about how these statements can help create a fixed mindset. If you say things like, oh, not everyone's good at everything, just do your best. Or you say, well, I gave it my best shot. Or you say, well, I found that very difficult. Or you say, that's just not one of my strengths. Any of you ever catch yourself saying these things to yourself? Right? What's the impact of those statements? Do you talk yourself out of things with that kind of language? Right? Exactly. Now, what's the language of growth mindset? How do we flip that stuff around? Instead of saying not everyone's good at everything, do your best, you could say, oh, when something's difficult, it's just my brain growing. I gave it my best shot. Instead of that, you can say, well, it looks like I might need to grow my understanding. Looks like I might need to learn some new things. Or I found that very difficult. You could say, whoa, that's just my brain growing. That's not one of my strengths. That's not one of my strengths yet. Ooh, yet. Here's the power of yet. Did anybody feel anything different when you heard yet at the end of that? Do you know a little tingle? You're like, ooh, yet. That felt, Let me tell you something amazing that happened. Between 2007 and 2013 in the United States in the Chicago public school system, at that time, they had a 49% graduation rate. That meant that less than half of the kids in the public school systems in Chicago were graduating. That's sad. I don't know what the graduation rate for high school is where you are, but that's not a great, you don't want to hang your reputation on that. Hey, we're graduating less than half the kids. Ooh. So they did one thing. They did a growth mindset thing. They removed failure as an option. They said the grading system, we're going to change the grading system from A, B, C, D, F to A, B, C, D, not yet. So if you didn't pass a class, you didn't get an F, you got a not yet. Now, they didn't just rubber stamp these kids to graduate. They said, if you still got to take the class, you still got to take the test, you still got to do the assignments, you still got to turn in the projects, but we're not going to fail you. Failure will no longer be an option. You're going to get a not yet, and then you got to do summer school, or you got to work with a tutor, you got to do after school sessions with a teacher, whatever it takes for you to actually earn graduation. By removing failure as an option, their graduation rate went from 49% in 2007 to 68% in 2014. That's what happens when we change language. That's what happens when we start focusing on what is possible. That's what happens when we remove failure as an option. I haven't failed. I just haven't succeeded yet. Make a list of 3 things you tell yourself you're not good at. Just jot them down. I'm not going to ask you to share them in the chat box. You can keep them personal. But just for yourself, what are 3 things you tell yourself consistently, I'm not good at? Just write them down. Now, to yourself, leave yourselves muted. Say out loud those 3 things. I'm not good at cooking. I'm not good at exercise. I'm not good at whatever. Yeah, only 3. You're wonderful. I just, yeah, for now, just focus on 3. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at languages. I'm not good at whatever you tell yourself you're not good at. Say those things out loud to yourself. I'm not good at whatever. Now, in the chat box, write down, how do you feel when you say out loud, when you speak into the universe, the things you're not good at? How do you feel proclaiming what you're not good at? Sad, negative, down, small, limited, I'm not enough, failed, sad. I don't want to leave you on that note. Here's what I want you to do. Go back to each of those sentences. Instead of a period, make the period a comma, and then put the word yet at the end of that sentence. Change the period to a comma and put the word yet at the end of that sentence. Now, say that sentence out loud. I'm not good at this yet. I'm not good at this yet. I'm not good at this yet. I feel life is beautiful. Things can change. It opens a door, Winston says. Yes, empowered. That's the point. It opens the door to the possibility of growth. It opens the door to the possibility that, you know what? Yeah, you can do that. Now, this is not some magical Harry Potter, Expelliarmus, BS that I'm spouting. This is not some motivational stuff here. Because when you add yet to the end of the statements you're not good at, here's what's true, folks. You still got to do the work. Einstein said nothing happens until something moves, but you feel less ashamed, Kasia says, right? I'm not ready yet, but you can be, David. That you can change. It is possible. Einstein said nothing happens until something moves. All this does is open the door for you to take the first step. So from here, I'm going to skip that. From here, what's one next step action that you could take if you wanted to be better at each of those things? What's one step you could take? Maybe you Google something, you do a little research. Maybe that's the next step. Maybe you call somebody and you ask them, hey, I hear you're pretty good at this. Tell me more about this. Maybe it's learning or fact finding. Maybe for some of you, it's you take a class, you sign up for a class, or you, I don't know, you could exercise. Okay, well, maybe I'll just walk 3 steps today. Consult a physician before beginning any exercise program, right? You just take a little step, you do something. And the moment you take that first step, it becomes easier to take the next step and the next step and the next step. And before you know it, boom, you have talked and walked yourself into the thing you want to have, do, or be. That's not only different, but better. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is growth mindset. Did you learn some useful things there? Carly?
James, thank you so much. Everybody, if you enjoyed the session, let's give some claps to James in the chat. Show him a little bit of love. Thank you so much, James. It's always a pleasure. And we did have some really great questions. I love it. We had some great questions, and we have a couple of minutes before we wrap up. One of them from Allie Wadey, a member of Offsite too. Thank you, Allie, for participating. She asks if you have any tips around growth mindset for overcoming imposter syndrome. So any tips on that?
Yeah, imposter syndrome. For those who don't know, imposter syndrome is where you think you're better than you really are, right? And like you may have you talked yourself into that job, but then you're like, oh, I'm not really good enough for this job. I think I'm an imposter, right? Step number 1, give yourself credit for the stuff you know how to do. Sometimes people who think they're suffering with imposter syndrome are ignoring their talents, their intelligence, all the good things that they do. So make a list of the things that you actually do well and give yourself credit for that. Number 2, figure out what your weak spots or your growth opportunities are, and then make a plan to get better at those things. Don't leave them as a weakness. If there's some area where you're like, oh, I know about this, but I don't know about that. Okay, go learn about that so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Get better. Give yourself credit for the things you do well and get better at the things that maybe you don't do so well at. Start with those 2. Who's next?
Thanks, James. Yeah, and then we had another question around just recommendations for books. I know you had mentioned Carol Dweck, but the couple of books that you recommended, we can always provide them to people after the session, but any quick ones that you would recommend?
So many books for so many different reasons. What's you have to be careful. TED Talks. Do this. Go to TED.com, pick a subject, or if you want, just pick the 25 most watched TED Talks, watch them all, because there's a wealth of information from those folks. You're talking about all kinds of different aspects of human excellence in different fields. So start there. If somebody really wants a book, take a look at the one that I mentioned in here earlier, The Brain That Changes Itself, Dr. Norman Doidge. There's a fun little book. If you work in management or on a team, there's a fun little book called The Gifted Boss by, hold on here. There's a fun little book called The Gifted Boss by Dale Doughton, How to Find, Create, and Keep Great Employees. It's a short book, not very thick, but a lot of great lessons in there about how to build healthy professional workplace relationships, right? So that would be a good one.
Amazing. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'll get to our closing remarks, and then if we have some time for more questions, we'll get to that. But with that, I just wanted to, if you enjoyed today's session and you're interested in diving deeper into growth mindset, we do have a full-length 2-hour workshop coming up on April 13th, which is next week. And then we also have a full cohort on building resilience. So diving deeper into how to thrive in the new normal and the next normal environment that we're going into. And we go deeper into growth mindset and a lot of other topics as well around resiliency. And that is a 5-week program of 5 2-hour sessions over the course of 5 weeks. That begins May 20th. So if you're interested in diving deeper, please do feel free to reach out to James and I. And also our members of Offsite receive 20% off. So as promised, this session will be available in our program or in our online community called Offsite. Offsite is a free online community really dedicated to helping you keep this learning that you've done today sticky, to keep building on it, and to also have a community of people around you that are also working on the same challenges, working to get better at the same skills you are. So please join us. There will be access to today's recording in there under our events section, and I will post it right away, so you'll be notified as well. There's also live instructor help. So our promise in there, if you have a question, if you post a question in Offsite, our instructor team will get back to you within 48 hours. And as promised, there's always exclusive discounts as well, and offers, and also exclusive sessions. So we do Ask the Expert sessions on Wednesday. So if you're hungry for more learning in a smaller group setting, I also invite you to join us for those. So join us at offsitebylearnit.com. I'll also put the link in the chat shortly. And with that, thank you so much to everybody for being here. If you'd like to join us for more of these free Friday sessions, we have a whole lineup of sessions coming up as well. We're doing a session more on leadership for how to design a learning and development and wellness program for your organization. That's coming up next week. And then we'll get into some more skills around how to use your email to actually reduce stress and anxiety. What a concept. And then we have a fun expert panel with our CEO coming up on the 30th. So with that's all my remarks. I'll put the link to Offsite in the chat. James, anything to add before we close it out?
No, I put the link to the Grow Your Brain video in the chat box, so people should be able to click on that, and I'll paste it one more time, and you can go watch the video on YouTube. Some other people made some great book suggestions in the chat box. One of them was Leadership and Self-Deception. Patrick Lencioni, Lencioni, has written a number of great business books as well, like Death by Meeting and Death by PowerPoint, and The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So those are all great books. If anybody, I don't know if we need the login, but if anybody wants to hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes and ask questions, I'm happy to stick around. So just no requirement, but if you want to, I'll stick around for a little bit. If you have to move on,
Great.
Absolute honor being here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, we'll stick around a little bit, and if anyone does actually have a question, they want to come off mute for this time, feel free to chat me, or you can just raise your hand, and James and I can unmute you, and we can unmute you that way.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Rita.
Ravi, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a question? All right, let me unmute you really quickly. There we go. You should have the option to unmute.
Hi, thank you first of all for this wonderful session, James. I really enjoyed it. I joined 5 minutes late, culprit, but I hope I didn't miss much. Yeah. And the question I wanted to ask you is, you talked about mindset, which is mainly focusing upon the individual and how you think about it. But the question I wanted to ask is, how do you change your immediate boss's mindset? You deal with so many people around you, but the main person you work with, is the one which you, because every human being feels like they're right, which they have human tendency to.
Yeah.
But if the people around you or the folks around you feel like, you know what, yeah, you're right, man, you're on the right track and all that stuff, how to change your immediate boss's mindset? That's a tough one for me, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, that can be really hard. It can be hard to change anybody's mindset or point of view. The first place I would suggest you start is on building rapport and relationship with them. Generally, we are more open to accepting advice from people that we know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust. So work on building those three things, getting to know them a little better, find out what their values are, their interests are, their likes and dislikes, find something to appreciate about them, right? And then develop some trust with each other, right? Follow through on your promises, those kinds of things. Work on building the relationship. Once you have a more stable relationship and rapport, then you can start to exert greater amounts of influence. You may not change their mind completely on this thing or that thing, but you may have greater sway with them. Does that make sense? It's a process. It's not usually going to happen overnight. It's a process, right? Okay. Who else? Urvashi, Dave has their hand up. Alexis has her hand up.
Awesome. I think Urvashi was next. So Urvashi, I will just go ahead and unmute you now.
Thanks, Ravi.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Great question. All right. Urvashi, did you want to? I asked you to unmute. Let's see. We can move to a next question. Let's see. Oh, there's Urvashi. Hi there.
So sorry, I have some noise background, so apologize for that. And I really appreciate for this informative session. I really enjoy. And thank you so much, James, for this session. I have a question regarding like changing mindset. Like right now, I feel like I was like very motivated like for learning new things, learning new language. I'm an information technology engineer, so like in our career, it's like we always language is changing, technology is changing, so we have to keep learning. So right now in this pandemic, it's like around us lots of depression going on. Like when we open the news, like lots of news going on. So because of that, we are feeling demotivated. So how to change that? How to like stay motivated even if like lots of things going around us?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And you're probably not the only person that's experienced some sense of sadness or depression these last 12 or 13 months. Has anybody else experienced some of that? Lack of motivation, right? Okay. I'm gonna refer you all back to and let me pull up a picture of something here. And I'm going to share this real quick. Can everybody see that screen? It's a picture of Maslow's hierarchy. Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who came up with this thing called the hierarchy of needs. And he says all healthy people have the same basic needs: physiological needs, air, water, food, sleep, shelter; safety needs, employment, resources, health, property; love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection; esteem, respect, status, recognition; and self-actualization, the desire to become the most that one can be. So your question, Urvashi, is about how do you stay motivated to learn, to continuously learn new things? It depends on where you are on this hierarchy. If you're down here at the bottom, so COVID showed up, affected virtually everybody on the planet. Which of these needs got affected by COVID? Who says all of them? All of them did, right? And so for most people, the last 12 or 13 months, we're not up here at the top thinking about learning new languages and technologies and new skills. most people are down at the bottom too, just trying to figure out, how am I going to stay safe? How am I going to keep my family safe? And how am I going to keep a roof over the head and food in the stomachs? We're down here at survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you're not thinking about higher level things. You're not thinking about your to-do list, right? You're thinking about eating. So what I would suggest is put learning new things on the back burner. Put that aside for the moment. Practice self-care. Make sure you've got the basics of the bottom two things met so that you can start going up to the higher things. Make sure you're trying to eat right and get enough sleep. Create one habit that you can look at and have some consistency in your life. For me, I said on day one of the pandemic lockdown, I'm making my bed. The rest of my life can be a dumpster fire, but my bed, I'm going to go into a clean, neatly made bed every night. So that's my one habit, self-care for myself. Other people have said, yeah, self-care is so important. So start there. And then you'll start to feel your energy build. And then you may have energy to, read an article, read a book, watch a video, learn a new thing. But that's what I would suggest. Don't beat yourself up because you're not learning stuff, especially if you're not feeling excited about learning. Take care of you first.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, survival mode is a form of learning new things, new ways of surviving. Right? Yeah. And then Alexis had a question, and then I think Jennings.
Yeah, and I think Ireland too. Great. If we have time, we'll get to as many as we can. If not, we can always address them after the session as well. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Alexis, I believe you were next. Let's see. I'll unmute you.
Thanks, Russ, for Dr. Kristen Neff's program on self-compassion. Go ahead, Alexis. How to lead when you're the youngest person in the room. Stop thinking of yourself as the youngest person in the room. Because unless they're carding you when you walk into, oh, may I see your ID, please? What's your age? Right? Here's what's true. They view you as smart enough to even be in the room. Otherwise, they would not have hired you or invited you into the room. So tell yourself, hey, I belong here, right? They invited me to the meeting. If they didn't think I had something worthwhile to contribute, I would not have been invited to the meeting. Then figure out how you can contribute. Because here's the deal. You might be the youngest person in the room, but you might also be the smartest person in the room too. They maybe hired you because you have that special skill or talent or expertise or intelligence that they were all lacking. So that's why you're in the room. So don't be afraid to shine. Don't let age become a hang up. See, some people, they get stuck on age, like, oh, I'm new here. I'm only 20 something. I just graduated from college. All these people are much older. They must know more than me. Maybe not. So don't let age stop you from sharing your ideas, your insights, or your intelligence. Don't focus on your age. Focus on your contribution. You're welcome, Alexis. Thanks for the question. All right, who's next?
Thanks. I think Aylin was next,
okay.
and then Jennings,
and then Charu, and then David. Go.
All right, Aylin. Let's see. I'm trying to unmute you here. Let's see.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, there we go.
Sorry. Hi, I have a question. I'm gonna be 46 years now, maybe in 2 months. And I know my mind is not that fast than other people, but I wanna know if you have any exercise, any books, anything to help me to make my mind exercise more. And my grandfather died with Alzheimer, and they say those runs on your family. And I don't want to get to that point, when you start forgetting things. I want to know how how what can I do now to keep
I would
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say consult experts on that. Google, like, what things can I do to improve my mind? From what I've read about the subject, just, like the video said, your brain is like a muscle, so you got to exercise it. So constantly learn new things, challenge yourself to learn difficult things, take more classes, read more books, do soft crossword puzzles or Sudoku. Constantly engage your brain in activity.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. This is Jennings.
Great. Yes. Why don't we make time for one more? Okay. And then David and anyone else who has questions, feel free to post your questions in Offsite, or you can email me and we'll address them as well. So yeah, let's see. Jennings, awesome. We'll take yours. I think I'm asking you to unmute here. So hoping you can unmute. There we go. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hi, James. Great session.
Thank you.
Somebody had asked earlier about, obviously, what if you have an immediate boss who's very difficult, and you obviously had indicated try and forge a relationship.
Right.
Try and make it work. It's not overnight. It takes a bit of time.
Right.
What if you try everything? This is a very toxic, somewhat person, and perhaps he or she is impeding on your progress.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, despite having put efforts to restore and build and forge alliances?
I'll tell you the advice that some very wise person gave me years ago. They said, if you only have 3 options for dealing with any kind of difficult situation or person. You can either confront and say something about it. That doesn't always mean conflict. It just means you address it. You can cope and just accept it as it is and learn to live with it, or you can leave. Confront, cope, or leave. Mm-hmm. So if you confronted your boss, you might say something like, hey, I get the sense that you and I could have a better working relationship than we do. What do you think? And if they say, well, yeah, maybe, okay, well, then ask them, is there anything I could do to improve our working relationship? And they may give you some feedback. And by that opening, they may say, well, is there anything I can do to improve our relationship? And then you give them some feedback, and then you work on that, right? So just confronting by saying, hey, I think this could be better. What do you think? If they say, no, I don't think it can be better, I think it's just fine the way it is. All right, then you can try cope, accept this is how it is and make the best of it. But if that doesn't sit well with you, then it may be time to find another job in a different department within your company, or another job at a different company.
Right.
If that person's not going to go, and if they're not going to change, and you think they're going to impede your growth, well, it may be time to find a new place. Not always easy, not always immediate, but you know what? One of the number one reasons why most people leave an organization is a terrible boss. It's not money, it's not compensation, it's a bad boss. Raise your hand if you've left a company because of a bad boss. Right? See, okay, we're not alone. 2. All right. Thank you all so much. You're wonderful people. All the best to you wherever you are in the world. Thanks for showing up here to this Offsite program, and I hope to see you again at either another Offsite program or a Learnit class. Until the next time, take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you, James. And thanks for being generous with your time, and everybody for sticking around. We really appreciate it. And we love having you as a part of this community. So thank you, and we'll see you next week and in an Offsite. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.